Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are back with another dragon in the How to Train Your Dragon series. This, as you can see, is Skrill. This is another of the figures in the $10 range that I found at my local Target. It's another of the random figures that you can go online, find the listing for on the website, but not purchase. Or at least it doesn't let me anyway. It tells me to go to my store and that they have them in stock. And as the website told me, they did, because here it is. And as you can see, the packaging is exactly the same as the last one we had taken a look at. Here on the back you can see all of the figures that are in this wave, which is Skrill, Toothless, Grunkle, and Rumblehorn. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So here is our Skrill with a crooked wing, but this one definitely looks pretty fun. I really quite enjoy all of the different designs for the dragons in this upcoming movie. I really cannot wait to see the movie. Actually, we were just at the theaters recently for the Minecraft movie, and when we were there watching that, we did see the trailer again for this movie, and my son is so hyped for it, as am I now at this point, so definitely can't wait to see it. But the sculpt of this one does look pretty fun, and we definitely have some flashy colors for this one. Let's actually put the wings up so we can get a closer look at the head without anything getting in the way. This one does feature more decals for the eyes that my camera didn't want to focus on. You can see the decals for the eyes, which helps to add some nice realism to the figure, which I really quite like. We can see a horn on the top of the snout right there, painted with a grayish tone, similar to what we see when it comes to all these spikes moving around the upper part of the head of the dragon. The coloration of this one is purple, but there is definitely some variation to those purples. As you can see, a little bit of a different shade up here on the top of the head. The texturing also looks pretty decent when it comes to this one. Definitely fairly nicely done. We've got the nostrils sculpted out. There is also this light tone, like a light grayish tone that moves along the jawline and then runs down here into the lower jaw. We can get a good feel for the detailing on the lower jaw and how nice that looks as well. Unfortunately, it's another dragon that does not have any form of articulation in the jaw, which you can see. I personally am a big fan of articulated jaws, and I feel like this figure certainly would have benefited from having one. We can see the teeth are okay looking. They don't look incredible, but they look alright when you look at the upper jaw. Yeah, they're all jumbled together, so they don't look super impressive, but they look okay. Same deal when it comes to the teeth on the lower jaw. We also have a pinkish tone there for the tongue and the inside of the mouth, and then just the gray for the upper side of the inside of the mouth, with some decent detail, but nothing impressive up there either. We do have neck articulation, just like we had on the last dragon in this line, which is a plus. It's basically just a swivel. As you lead back, you can see a seam, though, following along from the jaw into the neck. Again, kind of an eyesore when it comes to these figures, but action figures have seams. That's just the way it is. As you move along the back, you can see we have more of those like spines and spikes and stuff following the back of the dragon. They are all painted with a gray, which is definitely nice to see. We continue to have the purplish tones moving through the majority of the figure. The detail continues to look quite nice, and I really enjoy the way that they transition rather than a smooth, kind of more gradual transition. It's abrupt but kind of jagged as you move along the side of the figure. It looks pretty neat. As you move back, you continue to see very impressive scale, detail, and skin texture. We can also see the undersides of the wings are really quite nicely detailed. That might actually be some of the nicest I've seen on the skin of the wings of any of the dragons so far. Again, you have articulation, no real feel wings for these guys, just basically like plastic wings, but they're slightly flexible. As you look from up above, we can see some variations to the purples again here in the wings, which definitely adds a little element of flashiness to the figure. And again, it's really smooth when it comes to the way it's applied. The transitioning looks really quite nice and natural. There is a claw up here, which you can see, which shockingly doesn't actually feature any coloration or any sort of a satin shine like a lot of these have had so far. As you move along the back, you can see kind of almost like a little hump to the back, as well as some light grays that do lead down for a brief period before disappearing as you lead out into the tail. We also have those spikes following along the entire way out through the tail, and they do increase in size out near the tip, and they are all painted, which is a huge plus because now it has that fully painted look for the the most part, minus the lack of paintwork on the nails. But when you lead into the thigh, again, the skin texture, the skin detail looks really good. You've got some wrinkling and stuff there in the front of the thigh. Nice muscular looking thigh. You even have a little bulging calf muscle right there. As you move down into the foot sculpt, you can see the toes are sculpted pretty nicely. You also have the nails again, which do have a bit of a curved look, so they don't look like genuinely sharp or anything, but they look okay for what they are. And again, do have a satin shine down here, which is definitely nice. You also have articulation in the legs, which is a plus forward and back, and you can swivel the tail, which is nice because again, we haven't had too many dragons that have that articulation, and the wings also articulate up and down. Not the most mobility in the wings of this one, but they also swivel, so some okay articulation on this one. And you can see again, it looks pretty much the same from one side to the other with just a little bit of different positioning for the legs. As far as a size goes, I guess we'll go under the wing again. For a length, you were looking at about 9¼ inches or around 23.5 centimeters. For a height, the highest point is the spike there on the back, around 3¼ inches or a little over 8 centimeters. And then for a wingspan, because this one does have a little bit larger wings, around 9 inches or 23 centimeters, maybe a hair over. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our dragon, and you can see again, it's fairly small, and considering it is one of the dragons in the $10 size range, they're all fairly similar kind of in size, and to show you that, there is the Rumble Horn next to Skrill, and you can see that they are fairly similar in size with just a little bit more body mass on Rumble Horn. And when it comes to maybe the most similar dragon to Skrill, we have the Deadly Natter here, which we can see is a little bit larger. And at this point, I think we really only need one more comparison with our Gronkle, because I don't feel like we really need to bring any of the larger dragons in at this point. We're pretty well aware, I would say, of the size range for this line. So this How to Train Your Dragon Skrill figure is pretty fun. Again, I really quite like these $10 dragons because they're nicely detailed, they look really cool, they have some fun articulation, and they're fairly cheap. Again, $10 for a dragon of this quality is definitely not a bad thing. And for the most part, this one looks really good because it does have coloration from head to tail and is just missing nail paint, I would say. And maybe the paintwork, of course, of the nail there on the wings, but that's about it. The paintwork of this one is pretty flashy. I quite like the purplish tones of it. I think the design is pretty well done. There's no shortage of color on this one as we have a little bit more designing as far as like patterning on the top. We also have the spikes moving down along the back that are all painted, coloration moving along the underside that does lead a little ways out into the tail, but not all that far. We also have some fun articulation for the figure, which always helps when it comes to not just playability, but posability. The articulated jaw lacking on this one, again, is something that upsets me. I really would have loved an articulated jaw on this figure, but it seems as though we just aren't going to get that when it comes to this line, at least as far as these dragons. But they really could have just included an articulated jaw, would have made, in my opinion, a world of difference when it comes to the overall quality and feel of the figure. But we do have a little bit more articulation on this one than a lot of the others, as we do have, again, tail articulation, at least as far as the swivel goes. But the fine detail of the figure is also pretty well done on this one. So another pretty fun figure in this line. If you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can check it out on Target's website. I don't know if it'll let you purchase it or not, but it should at the very least let you know if your store has it in stock. So then you can run to Target, grab it in store, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.